Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. So, the 2019 Copa America has come to the end, with a final between the home nation Brazil and Peru ending 3-1, meaning that Brazil were crowned champions. The goals came about due to Paulo Guerrero for Peru and Everton, Jesus and Richarlison for Brazil. Today we'll be looking at the tactics implemented by Tite and Garecha that led to this result. Just quickly before then, if you aren't subscribed, consider doing so. This channel is made for people like you, football lovers, so if you're interested in joining the community, go ahead and hit subscribe. Now, let's get into it. Just a quick reminder of the formations, as both teams lined up in a 4-2-3-1. Brazil's backline was Alves, Sandro, Silva and Marquinhos, with Arta and Casemiro just ahead of them. Jesus, Coutinho and Everton were the attackers just behind Firmino. The Peru backline consisted of Advíncula, Zambrano, Abram and Trauco, with Tapia and Vertoon just ahead of them. Carrillo, Cueva and Flores were the attackers just behind Guerrero. Now, let's get into the tactics. We'll start with what Brazil did offensively and how Peru looked to counter against this. When in possession, Brazil did look to play out from the back, but an interesting thing to note is that unlike against Argentina, where at least one fullback would advance, against Peru they were fairly conservative, maintaining their width deep. The double pivot of Arta and Casemiro would stagger, with one, usually Casemiro, dropping a bit deeper to provide an option, and the other one moving between the lines. At the same time, in the defensive phase, Peru used a fairly standard 4-3-3. They used a medium block, however they did attempt to press. The front three would do this well, but the midfield would often not join. This is because Arta pushed higher and closer to Coutinho, which would draw midfield attention from Peru. As a result, the press would be disoriented and Casemiro would often get the ball after a defensive pass broke the lines. Going forward, Peru did not necessarily drop into a deep 4-5-1 and instead maintained the 4-3-3. Here we see the first attacking ploy by Brazil, with the winger on the opposite side of the ball maintaining the width. With the midfield pretty much 1 versus 1, it meant that Coutinho was free to take on his man, which he often did. As soon as Coutinho beat his man, he would be running straight at the defense, and with the Peru fullback watching the winger, if the centre back decided to confront Coutinho, there would be a gap left. So the fullback had to decide whether to stay with the winger or move inside to plug the gap. If he did move inside, the winger would be left in plenty of space. But if Coutinho did not try to beat his man, Brazil could still switch the ball out wide. Jesus on the right wing would do one of two things. He himself would receive the ball wide and look to cross or take on his man. It's important to note that Brazil would overload the box during this phase with runners as the ball went wide. If Dani Alves chose to go up, Jesus would tuck in and join the runners in the box. On the left-hand side, Everton was dangerous. He would either take on his man or drop deep to provide space for Sandro to run into. Elements of these tactics can be seen in the first goal. Jesus remains wide in the space and latches onto the long pass. After taking on his man, the overloaded box makes near post runs, which attracts defenders, and allows Everton to arrive on the back post unmarked. For the second goal, again a man always stays wide, occupying the fullback. At the same time, this allows Jesus, who eventually scores, to tuck in and provide the finish. How about Peru? What was their main attacking tactic? Well, Peru would have seen hitting Brazil on the transition as a viable option. But Brazil anticipated this by being conservative with their fullbacks, and even often defended in a deep 4-5-1. But Brazil for the most part would try to play a high press, so Peru began to play long balls, looking for the second ball between the lines. Each time Peru played the ball long, the next time they had the ball, Brazil would subconsciously drop deeper in anticipation of the long ball. With the forwards still pressing high, the gap between midfield and defense began to grow, which Peru populated with players looking for the second ball. This shows as the attacking midfielder in the 4-2-3-1 actually played more as a forward, provided an additional target for the long pass. When this failed to work, they utilized the channels. One of their double pivot would drop deep and would look to launch passes into the space behind the fullbacks, but as we discussed, Alves and Sandro were careful not to leave themselves too exposed. In the end, Brazil came out as deserved winners, adding another Copa America title to their collection. So, with another tournament due next year, who are your early favourites? Leave a comment below But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.